guys, welcome back to my channel. This tutorial is really exciting because it's a collaboration with the artist Donna. So if you haven't already, be sure to check out her YouTube and Instagram channels. She does these incredible illustrations and a lot are about food. And I saw one of an animated cake and I was like, I have to make an actual cake that looks like a cartoon. So we're doing a collaboration, so be sure to check out all her work. It is incredible. And for the cake today, like I said, I'm going to put on this animated cartoony feel. So for those who don't know, I actually did animation and illustration before I got into cake decorating. So this collaboration with Donna is perfect. And I'm so excited to bring the animation illustration world together with the cake world and hopefully create an amazing cartoon looking cake. Now to start, I've made my vanilla sponge. I made a 6-inch cake and I've added sprinkles. So this is my normal cake recipe. I've got it on my channel. I'm sure many of you have made it. And all I do is add sprinkles after I add the flour. It is so easy and it creates this funfetti cake, which is super popular. And I just thought I might as well add as much color as possible because I want to get that cartoon look. And I'm going to fill it with coloured buttercream, which is a big deal because I never put coloured buttercream inside a cake, but again, I wanted it as cartoon-like as possible. So I've got some white and pink Swiss meringue buttercream here. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out my other videos and I show you how to make Swiss meringue buttercream. I show you step by step how to make the sponges. I also show you how to make my sugar syrup, which I'm going to soak the cakes with now. So the sugar syrup adds a little bit of flavour as well as moisture. And I like to soak my sponges before I start decorating, just so they're soaked and I don't have to worry about it. And now I'm just going to put them in order as to how I'm going to stack the cake. So one base at the top and one at the bottom. And I've grabbed my turntable with a cake board and I have a wet cloth underneath so the cake board doesn't slide around. I've got my palette knife and scraper at the ready and I can begin stacking my cake like normal. And as always, I'm going to start off with a little bit of buttercream on the cake board just to secure that first piece of sponge to the board so it doesn't slide around. And now I'm going to go for a stripy filling. So I'm basically going to alternate between the pink and the white buttercream and pipe rings. So basically what happens is when you cut open a slice of cake, you'll get stripes of white and pink buttercream, which you will see at the end. So I'm going to start off with the white and just create a little circle in the middle. Then go around with the pink. And then again with the white. And I'm going to keep alternating until I reach the outside of the cake. So you can see there are rings of pink and white. I actually really like the two colors together. They remind me of like marshmallow or something really fluffy. And just gently with my palette knife, I'm just going to very carefully flatten the top. I don't want to blend the layers, but I do want to flatten the surface. So I'll only go round in a circular direction. Get my next layer of cake and line it up. And this time I'm going to start with the pink. And once again, keep going until I reach the edge of the cake. Final layer. So of course it's a little bit longer doing a process like this, but it just adds to the wow effect when you cut open a slice of cake. Usually I don't put coloured buttercream in the middle of a cake because I don't feel the need for extra food colouring, but once in a while I suppose it's okay. And then the final cake layer, and I'm going to turn it this side up so I get the flat edge on top. And now I'll crumb coat it. So I'm just going to use the remainder of the white now. It doesn't matter what color you crumb coat in because you do scrape off the majority of the buttercream and you don't really see it from the outside or inside either. And as usual, I'm going to cover the whole cake with a thin layer of buttercream, making sure the buttercream is packed in the sides because you don't want any holes there. and reaching the very bottom of the cake as well. People tend to forget about that bit. So once the cake is covered, I'm going to flatten off the top. And people sometimes ask me about filling in these corners here. And what I've discovered is that if you flatten the top first, before you do the sides and then finish on the top again, it tends to work. So I've flattened the top, and if anything, I've kind of pushed this buttercream over the edge, and this is what's going to pack in those corners. Now I can go around with my scraper and scrape off any excess buttercream, and I'll start seeing the sponge cake come through. It's important to have a bowl next to you to scrape this crummy buttercream into, because you want to keep this separate from your clean buttercream for the next layer. So once you're happy with how the sides look, you can actually see that the buttercream has been pushed upwards and filled in those top corners. And now you just need to clean off the edges. So I go from the outside in, gently gliding over each corner and scraping the excess buttercream back onto my scraper. If you don't clean your palette knife, you just end up putting more buttercream back onto the cake. So crumb coat is done. As usual, this now goes to chill in the fridge for around half an hour or freezer for 15 minutes until this crumb coating is nice and firm before we add the second layer of buttercream. So cake's been in the freezer for 15 minutes. The crumb coating is nice and firm. I like to speed it up in the freezer rather than the fridge. I've also coloured this Swiss meringue buttercream a darker shade of pink, and this is going to go on the outside of the cake. So as usual, I'm going to apply a thin layer all around the cake and make it nice and smooth. Start off by going around the sides. And spread some out over the top as well and make the top nice and flat. Now I'll go around the sides, straightening and smoothing those edges. So I'm going to be adding white chocolate drips to this cake, which means the cake's going to have to go back into the freezer anyway. Because I've pushed up quite a lot of buttercream on the top, I'm going to freeze it before I trim the edges. I actually have a video all about this, you may have seen it, and it's a really good way how to get nice sharp corners. So I'm not going to clean off the corners just yet. I'm going to put the cake in the freezer for at least 15 to 20 minutes and get this really cold whilst I prepare my white chocolate ganache for dripping. Then I'll clean off the corners and drip at the same time. Right, so the buttercream is completely frozen, which means I can trim off the corners. So just with my palette knife, go round the edge very slowly and carefully and cut into the buttercream, and it lifts off. Usually I don't do this technique when I'm doing the drips on top, but because there was quite a lot of buttercream on here, I thought it was the safest option. So I'm just going to neaten the edges. The very top of the cake isn't perfect, but because I'm going over with the drip, I don't mind, because the drip's just going to hide it. So I prepared my white chocolate ganache ready for dripping, and I've added the titanium dioxide to give it more of a white appearance. Now remember, this can only be done on a very cold cake, which is why I had it in the freezer. And so I'm going to slowly pour it on. And then gently guide it towards the edge of the cake and let it drip over. So with white chocolate, it's this balance of working slowly because you want it to cool, but as soon as it starts dripping, you want to kind of finish the drips because it needs to go back in the fridge to set. Careful not to go over drips too many times, otherwise you get this double drip effect. I'm happy with this, so into the fridge it goes. So I ended up leaving the white chocolate drips in the fridge for a good hour for them to set. The good thing with white chocolate, for what I'm about to do, is that it does stay a bit sticky. And to make this cake more cartoon-like, I'm actually going to apply some sprinkles to the drips. Now, I've seen this all over Instagram recently and I haven't tried it yet. Another new technique just for YouTube. And to be honest, I wouldn't usually do this because I think it will take a very long time, but the effect is amazing and I do want this cake to look as cartoon-like as possible. So I have some sprinkles here and I've also got a little bit of water which I'm going to dip my finger in, and I'm hoping, yes, it does. It brings some sprinkles onto my finger and then I can go over and apply them to the drips. So you can do this with tweezers. I've seen people do it, but like I said, I'm all about saving a bit of time. And actually, that's already looking pretty. So I'm gonna go round and sprinkle all the drips around the cake. Cool. So a little bit fiddly, but definitely worth it. It looks amazing. I'm definitely going to be doing this again. Gotta say, I have to give it to the people who do it with tweezers because that was a bit painstaking, but the effect is awesome and it definitely looks cartoony. So now I'm going to finish off the decorations, and most cartoon cakes just have big swirls of icing with like cherries or strawberries on top. So I've got a piping bag here of some buttercream with a star nozzle, and I've also got some meringue kisses. So I'm going to pipe 8 rosettes on the top and then put the meringue kisses on top. Actually, I may go for 6 because I wanted the rosettes to be really big and exaggerated. I think there's only enough room for 6. And then add the meringue kisses to the top. So I am loving what this looks like. I might add some sprinkles just to the top to tie it in to the other decorations. So I think this cake looks cartoon-like as it is, but the amazing thing about Donna's illustrations, they all have little eyes on. Now, I was thinking of ways I can add eyes without using fondant because I don't really use fondant that much. So I actually made circular meringue discs and then attached a chocolate button. And that's it. And they've actually come out really nice, and I've made 2 of them. And they are going to be the eyes of my cake. So you can obviously do the eyes however you like, whether it's royal icing or fondant. And I'm just going to attach them directly to the buttercream and ganache. And I quite like the sideways look. So I'm going to put the eyes pointing in the same direction. And look how cute he is. So I think I'm gonna start adding cartoon eyes to all my cakes because I'm a little bit in love with this. So if you did wanna try the eyes out, I would recommend making these meringue circles. They're super easy. It's the same recipe as my kisses, again on my channel. I'll put the link below for the mats that you need. It just guides you and shapes the meringue in the right way. And then you get these beautiful circles which make the perfect eyes. So thanks again. I hope you enjoyed watching me take on this challenge of making a cartoon looking cake. Don't forget to head over to Donna's channel. I'll write all the details below, and she's going to create an amazing scene based on this cake and me. So be sure to check that out. More tutorials are on the way and hope to see you very soon.